Welcome back, everybody, to Soccer Life. It came to my attention later on last week. I don't think you guys ever heard the theme song, right? I played it in my own ears only. You guys don't. Andrew Wiebe and Matt Doyle with me on a Monday morning for our rock and roll show, where we like to get started and talk about everything that happened across the weekend. The squad is back, you guys.
Yeah,
I'm just like so excited.
Yeah, it's like a middle-aged
We're
dad
talking
whose
paddle,
kids.
we're hanging
Yeah,
out.
middle-aged dad whose kids come home for Christmas. He's like, "Oh, this is a rock and roll time with you." I mean, wow.
Yeah, exactly. We talked paddle just now. I'm
Yeah.
super excited. We're back in the sweet spot of like, we said 10, Doyle's on a 10, I'm on a 10:02, Weeby's on a 10:15.
It was 08, 10:08.
08, then we get started at 10:30.
I want this to be a fact-based podcast. I just, let's stay in that realm.
Facts-based, sponsored by, and then you could throw your sponsor in, Weeby, because I know you always have one in the back pocket.
I'm right there. I'm almost there.
Okay.
I'm almost there.
Don't forget, speaking of sponsorship, to go and sign up for Tactics Free Zone. Doyle, the article I saw drop last night. Hard at work. And and now you're on our show today, and we talk MLS all the time. You've got power rankings, I assume.
Power rankings, I think, is going to come tomorrow morning. It was weird when I dropped power rankings last week on like Monday afternoon, right? It was
You should drop power rankings on Saturday at 2:15. You should power rank the teams before they even play a game.
Well, this is why you're in the C-suite, man.
Yeah.
You like thinking outside the box on all of it. Let me make up a deck. I'll put together a deck and show that to you.
Even more CC is here's my idea that you do. You do that. Yeah, I have a great idea, but I need you to do it for sure.
I actually just talked to someone at a conference who has an AI program that could just do it for you, and it would do it before the games are played, because you don't need the games to be played.
Correct. Yeah.
I think we can all admit that if Doyle could do decks, he would be unstoppable.
That's all noise. Like what the AI gives us is signal. That's the important.
I've read a LinkedIn post that I've now summarized but not attributed back to LinkedIn. This is a great idea. Let me tell you about it.
Yeah, that's what I learned when I was coming up in the game. So on this show, we are going to talk about the best things we saw this weekend, and there was a lot of them. A wild and wacky weekend of Major League Soccer. We're going to go through some of the top headlines, but I felt week 2, teams are still having their home debuts, a lot of big games. I still wanted to hit every game. So we're going to have Wiebe with us for a bit. Then when we let him go, we're going to continue and talk about every single game. If you're listening to us on Sirius Radio, welcome. Thanks for being here. We have a tendency to go long. So if the show goes long, you'll have to go to find our podcast anywhere you find our podcast, or go to the on-demand player to get the rest of the show. If you're listening via podcast or live on YouTube or later on YouTube, we're going to get all of that, unless Doyle's internet goes down. And then I will
I spent money to upgrade it. This past week. It's now a tax write-off for me. That's big. Like,
Hell
I'm living in a whole new world in 2026, man.
S-Corp Doyle on the scene. All right, so a lot to talk about. Let's start with our best things we saw this weekend. Wiebe, let's start with you. And if we're starting off the top, and we're starting with you, we know we're going big headlines.
We are Walmart Saturday Showdown. Now, I'm saving that for later. I'll let you have that one, Dave. It was a wonderful evening in Salt Lake City and Sandy, Utah, RSL beating Seattle. But mine is what I watched Sunday night with my boys. It's a great opportunity for me to get home a little earlier doing these Saturday games and just, mainline some MLS and really just sort of shape the present and future of my progeny. And they want to watch Messi. I'm not going to lie to you. They want to watch Inter Miami. And so we watched it, and halftime comes around. It's 2-0 Orlando City. And Cameron looks to me, my eldest, he's 8. And Daddy, is Miami going to lose? It's just like inconceivable to him that this is what would happen. And I said, well, you just be patient here. Things can switch up, and don't talk trash to Lionel. Like, you could just tell. And I've been on the sideline with Orlando before, and I've been on the sideline for this specific game. One, it is very clear that these two sides don't love each other. There's no love lost between the benches. There's respect, but there's very, very hot competitive fire sort of.
Is there respect?
I think there is. I think it manifests itself in like anger sometimes, and frustration and competition. And you could just tell that Messi and the Orlando bench started to get into it. And Messi is a little bit like, he's like the superstars of yore. You think about the stories you heard of Michael Jordan, like manufacturing disrespect or manufacturing something internal that would light him up. And Messi does it. When you watch him, he just starts to, we talked about it last week, starts to smolder. And if you let that smoldering turn into a bonfire, well, then Segovia is looking up and saying, I better not touch this ball again because Lionel's coming on his left foot, and bang, there's a goal. And, you know, Miami just have horses. And then if you have a goalkeeper, Maxime Crepeau, that's not at his best, like that free kick from Messi it's well struck. Is it perfectly struck? No, but it still finds the bottom corner somehow.
It's
and
a
then
borderline howler from Maxime Crepeau.
Yeah,
Borderline
on the
howler.
free kick. Yeah,
I agree. But still.
he earned and lost the
still
Canada job in like 15 minutes.
It was a real seesaw. It was a real seesaw for
Dane
him
did
and
the same
Dane,
as
Dane
well.
too. But then Messi goes to the wall where he's never played in front of, and he sees middle fingers staring down at him, and he is just loving it. He is
Shout out
just
to
Telling him he's number one.
Yeah, he is number one. Shout out to our own Morgan Tenzo. Got a great shot of that for us for the SoccerWise account on that game. Let me ask you this, because there's a million things to hit in this game. But you started with watching with your kids. I guess I don't have kids at that age, but I understand Messi's a big deal.
Period.
Wait, you don't have kids at that age?
Well,
Wait,
relax.
did we just get a big reveal?
Yeah,
Relax.
whoa,
No,
whoa.
We did not. We did not. But the age part is what's interesting to me of like, they have not seen Messi at his peak at Barcelona, which is what made him famous. I understand Argentina, but it's interesting to me when I watch these games and they showed all the kids with the signs who are like, Messi's number 10. I'm his number 1 fan. I want the autograph. I guess it fascinates me. And there's part of it that's the industry of it all, that he's just getting pumped at everyone. That's the person that they associate with as like greatness and connect to. Not because he's not that, but like, once he left Barca, he played at PSG, he's played at Inter Miami, and I guess you probably live in a household where Inter Miami is elevated than
Our
others.
Barca, our Argentina, our MLS teams are what my boys think of as like the top of the game, because that's what we watch, that's what we think about, that's what we talk about. On Saturday mornings they're playing soccer games. They're not sitting at home watching EPL games. Like they're out doing stuff, and so naturally that's what they gravitate towards. But I think there's a comparison for me to like Michael Jordan growing up. Like Michael Jordan was my idea of peak athleticism, peak competitive fire, like peak performance. And not just in terms of the sporting side, because that was sort of a given, but also the cultural side. For my sons, I've seen Messi be that cultural icon. I mean, he is literally everywhere. Like he is the jersey they see. He is the guy that they want to play with on FIFA. Like when they play FIFA, they want to be Argentina. It's, there's a lot of FIFA games between my 5-year-old and 8-year-old that are Argentina against Argentina. Like it's not, that's what they want to do. Like, it's either that or they're playing like Nashville, Chicago Fire. Like we're really, we're in the trenches, so to speak. When they
Big Hugo Kuipers family.
When they're pretending to be a player downstairs, right now, one of them is Messi, one of them is Mbappe again, or it is Portland against Minnesota. Like it's
Andrew Gutman versus Andrew.
And those are the people. Those are the people that are the elite players for them. They watch MLS. They love MLS. They want to talk about MLS. But like that is who they associate. And when they go to the store to get a new pair of soccer cleats, there is one name that's on soccer cleats on the wall. Just like when I was growing up, when I went to get new shoes, Jordans that was it, man. Like if you wanted Jordans, you had to get Jordans. That was a sign of cultural status and how cool you were. That's Messi for them. And so, when my older son asked for a poster for his room, we just painted his room, just redid his room. He wanted a Messi poster, and he wanted a Messi poster that had Argentina, Barcelona, PSG, and Miami. He wanted all of them. They see, to them, it's the GOAT idea, the greatest. Like, and that's what you identify with. And so that's who they identify with.
I think you see it in the LeBron MJ debates, right? Of like people like to connect themselves to something they consider greatness, even if it's not your thing and you have no association. And obviously Messi is an exemplification of that. Your kids are not the only one. We got a message from Colin OCSC on Blue Sky, who screenshotted a message someone put up that said the entire Will family, including the owners of Orlando City, stood on the Miami side of the field during warm-ups taking pictures of Messi and company. That spoke volumes about the team. So your kids are in good company with the other owners of Major League Soccer teams who can connect with it. This game starts with the 2-0 lead for Orlando. We're thinking maybe some things are fixed, and then it all collapses after Doyle into the fight and Messi saying, "Do you want my autograph?" and all of that. Like the pettiness, the energy for a week 2 game, it's as good as we've ever seen in MLS. But what do you make of the performance on the field?
So I'm going to read a quote from Javier Mascherano. The victory belongs exclusively to the players. which is a lie because Mascherano actually made a significant adjustment at halftime. In the second half, they were championship team. There were no tactics, nothing like that, which I like to think is a shout out to tacticsfreezone.com. There was heart, courage, possession, resilience, commitment. I think the team came out because they were champions last year. Look, all of that is right. The second part of it, they upped their level of intensity, and Messi being the exemplar of that. But also, he dropped Noah Allen, went to a sort of a 3-5-2 with Messi up top with Bertarame, put on Silvetti on one side and Allende the other side. Is like these flying, really high wing backs that completely pinned Orlando into like a back five. It was just a flat back five for Orlando in the second half. After Orlando's shape, and give Oscar Pareja a lot of credit, Orlando's shape caused a lot of problems for Miami Miami had a basic 4-2-3-1, caused a lot of problems for Miami in that first half. Like they could not deal with Griffin Dorsey, shout out Kalen Carr, like bombing forward, getting touches in the box, combining obviously the beautiful goal with Ojeda. Like everything was clicking, and Mascherano did the smart thing, and he's like, I'm going to mirror it, and I'm just going to let the talent decide the game. And it's just more data that says Javier Mascherano is a really good coach. You know, last year was his first job in the big chair for a top team. And the main job when you have players like that is managing the egos. And he obviously did that really well. But along the way, he actually got that team to be much more solid defensively against the ball, really hard to play through by the end of the year. And now this year, new personnel, managing a different set of egos with different skill set. Like they're not as good at progressing the ball. Like very clearly they're missing Busquets and Alba early in this season, but he's still finding solutions. I've seen nothing that suggests this isn't going to be an excellent team again this year. I still think they're probably going to be better than last year. The big question after 2 weeks is, will they actually be better than LAFC? Because LAFC is whacking. LAFC is just as good as, but actually better. So it's like we already have a really big storyline from the two teams that we all thought were going to be the two best teams in the league this year.
And LAFC went, they beat Houston. We're going to talk. We've got Red Bulls coming up. We've got RSL to talk about. We've got a lot to talk about. So we're not going to hang here too long. I will say, though, with the LAFC thing is, if Orlando had been able to find a way to counter what Miami did, which is Silvetti did not play wingback. He played as a winger. There was no point in which he defended or was along the back line. Allende does not play it either. Like, you have to go after Miami.
It was a 3-3-4, right? Yeah. Right? Like, we call it a 3-4-2. It was a 3-3-4 that Miami played in the second.
And Orlando, we talked to Griezmann last week. We don't have to do it again. They have they're a little bit behind. They have some injuries, but I thought it was a little cowardly the way they then handled it, which was, can we dump on defensive midfielders and try and hold on and hang in this game rather than can we go and win this and can we go take it away from them? And Mascherano opened that door because he had to, but he was able to get his team back on track. And the award
wait a minute, it all really fell apart though when Nolan Miller got hurt. Yeah. That's the thing.
Oh my God, the slide tackle in the first half. I'm like, that's those moments where we're living in this fever dream of Michigan graduate defends Lionel Messi in a high stakes game.
But that's the beauty of this league and has always been, right? Yeah. Like that you feel like you're like, wait a minute, this guy shouldn't be, but he is, and that's the joy of all of this. And I think we've seen that some on Miami too. When I see Yannick Bright go to Lionel Messi and like kiss him on the head after a game, I'm like, hold on. Like, where are we? How is this happening? Yeah. And you got to take real joy in that.
The award for Miami is they get to go eat McDonald's at the White House and cash in their Kalashi Poly Market on pickles per burger bet. So Inter Miami is going to the White House this week if they're still allowed to. I don't know wartime protocols, and that's a big deal for them. And they get to jump on the Messi train just like everyone else. Everyone's taking pictures of and with Messi. And for Orlando, huge question marks. We talked to Griezmann on Thursday with Valère on this show. Clips are up on social as well. You can go find those if you want to. Let's talk about the best team in Major League Soccer, though, because you tried to make it LAFC, but it's not, Doyle. The best team is the only undefeated team left in the Eastern Conference, the only team on 2 wins. It is your Baby Bulls.
Yeah, the Red Bulls, I did not expect it to happen this quickly with Michael Bradley in his first job managing a first team, and he has instilled what I would consider like a Wilfred Nancy style of free flowing but really structured with the ball attack, and they beat the Revs 1-0. It wasn't as dominant as what they did against Orlando in week one, and they're still leaving goals on the board, right? They could have had 2, they could have had 3. So there needs to be a little bit more precision in the final third. I think a lot of that is coming from the wingers who are maybe not holding up their end of the bargain.
This was what I went to check before. They're doing a fire alarm check through my building. They are going to play Sweet Caroline at some point, which I don't have the rights to, so that they can come in and test and see if it works in every single unit.
Why is that the song choice?
I don't know. And last year, because they do it once a year, last year the guy came in and he looked at me like 100% and he goes, at least we're playing good music. Like there's no world in which I wasn't going to be jacked. That Sweet Caroline has been blasted through my apartment for the last 25 minutes. Yeah. Also, this is going to be all week because they have to start on the 50th floor and come down, and I live in the middle.
All right.
So,
I guess Wiebe and I will take
Doyle.
the rest of this segment, man. Just the Red Bulls have had for a long time the ability to control the game without the ball. It's the whole premise behind energy drink soccer, and they still have that. But what they've added, what Michael Bradley's added this year, is in players like Adri Mehmeti, especially, who's just, God, I've never seen a 16-year-old American defensive midfielder who's this good. The ability to control tempo with the ball, to use the ball to crack open opposing back lines, really the entire opposing structure. And within that, we're seeing stuff like Justin Shea, who's a center back in a 2, both overlapping and underlapping with and without the ball. And it's become so hard for other teams to track. I wrote it off after week 1 because Orlando were just so bad. But week 2, look, the Revs aren't great. Very clearly, this is a team that has a lot to figure out, but they're not roadkill. They're not without talent. And the Red Bulls were just 2 levels above what the Revs were able to do on the night, Wiebe. And it's coming from these guys who are like literal children, half of them, or in like Justin Shea, 5 years ago, he was the Mehmeti, he was the Hall, and he never lived up to his talent. And now they've harnessed that, and he has become a really effective soccer player.
I think that part of it is something that I want to see more, and I hope that the league is able to embrace, because you're gonna, with the rise of sort of more and more transfers and earlier transfers, you're gonna have hits, but you're also gonna have misses. But that doesn't necessarily mean the talent is gone. I want to dive in and pinpoint something you just said, and just kind of interrogate you a little bit, because you said this is the best 16-year-old defensive midfielder American you've ever seen, and my brain is immediately seeing Tyler Adams win championships for the Baby Bulls and then graduate to the first team and ball out and win shields and go to Europe and so help me out here. Mehmeti, Tyler Adams, like how's this sort of like measuring up in your mind?
So Tyler Adams was a wingback at that age, right? Because he played D-mid as a 16-year-old sporadically for the first team and mostly for the second team. But when he came up to the first team for good, he spent a year and a half playing as a wingback in that bizarro. It was almost like a 3-3-3-1 the way they were playing it. And he was, I think I voted him best 11 at that position. And there's a big part of me that still thinks Tyler's best position is out wide, because he does not receive the ball well on the half turn. Right? He is not a 360-degree player when he plays in central midfield. He does not control tempo with the ball. Mehmeti does. Mehmeti looks like he came from La Masia, man. Like I watched him, and like I watched Marc Bernal, who's the 18-year-old Busquets heir who's starting to get more minutes now for Barcelona's first team, and it was holy hell. Like they're like mirror images of each other, and like I know that's a really high compliment, but that's
just
that's where the kid is at this point, and there's no reason to think American kids can't get there. There's simply no reason to think that. If you look at what our best young players do on the world stage in the U17s and the U20s every single time, there is no reason to think that we can't produce kids that good. And Michael Bradley lived it, right? Like Michael Bradley 22, 23 years ago was on that path, and he went to Heerenveen, and then he went to Mönchengladbach, and then he went to God, remind me where he played in Italy.
Aston Villa, Chievo Verona.
Yeah, Verona.
Chievo
and
Verona.
Then, yep. Mm-hmm.
So he
Roma.
played in all, and like he seems to have right away said, like thinking not just I want to get wins for Red Bull, but like I want to sort of widen the pathway that was so narrow when I was coming through 25 years ago. And I like, if I'm a Red Bull fan, I'm going to enjoy the hell out of Julian Hall and Adri Mehmeti right now, because I think 3 years from now, these kids could be any team in the world. That type of talent.
3 years feels like a stretch as well, sort of, which
Yeah.
which will come down to as well. Like if this Red Bull team can continue and be successful and push with this group, this could be the test for them of like, okay, fine, you won't go out and sign big names. You've created big names. Will you hold them enough to win here, or will you not? But besides that, I just wanted to say I've seen Mehmeti and Tyler up close at the same age. I think to Doyle's point, Mehmeti does different things on the field that he's capable of. The Tyler off the field stuff and intangible stuff is the stuff that was like world class, where he was like a leader at 16. That stuff is unteachable. It's untouchable. It has value. They both, I think they're very different, which was why every time me and Tom have talked about Mehmeti for the last 2 years on this show, we have said he's the best prospect since Tyler, but we don't compare them because I think they're so different.
You could pair
players.
them, right? Like Tyler, you said the off-field stuff from Tyler is world class. Also, the front foot defending
and the off-ball stuff,
from Tyler's
out of
world.
possession,
like,
his ability.
I don't know that there's a better central midfielder in the world at blowing up opposing counterattacks before they even start, because he reads the game so quickly, and his athleticism, his straight line athleticism, is unbelievable. He goes from 0 to 60 as fast as anybody. That is a completely different physical skill set and technical skill set than Mehmeti.
And it was a thing that was world class the moment he stepped into the pro ranks, which Mehmeti has that's already at this level going forward. Matty Dos Santos sets up the goal as well on the short corner. I thought he played really well from that left back spot. That's a guy that they've pushed through. I mean, all these guys are guys that they've pushed up age groups, that they've pushed through to the pro ranks at a young age. And I think Sandro Schwartz gets some credit on Julian Hall of like the first time he practiced, he was like, this guy's a first team player. And they had the whole like legally he couldn't play at night and all that stuff. And Sandro was like, that's fine. He's part of my team. Like you guys can figure out the game time stuff, but he trains with my team. And that's, I think, been a huge help for Julian Hall, that like he has been expected to be a first team pro for 2+ years now. And he's playing like the experienced part of this group as they put the whole thing together. I've still got question marks on the Cade Cowell, Ruvalcaba stuff of like where it all, some of this creation ends up, dribbling over the end line and tripping over yourself and trying to draw fouls and all that type of stuff. But I think that's a problem you'd rather have if you're Red Bulls than an inability to create chances and get into the final third. We'll talk Revs, I think, more later on. They did get the center backs back, so it looked a little better, but it was still underwhelming and unimpressive in this game. But I wanted to one-up you, Doyle. You're talking Red Bull kids. I got to go out west to the RSL kids, who I thought we said it looked good last week in a really tough situation in Vancouver. Players out for visas and injuries and all of that. They come back into a formation change at home to Seattle, and they played awesome in this one. Wiebe, you were there, so let's start with this. Well, give me pronunciations on the three kids. Let's just do that out the gate.
Aiden
Let's
Herzakani,
set the line.
Luca Moisa,
and Xavier Gozo.
Yes, it's like it's not that Gozo's the one that I struggle with because it's like a mixture. It's not like you want to go Xavier, but it's not EA.
Yeah,
it's Xavier. Xavier
Apparently
Gozo.
He's named after Drogba.
Yes, that was a very good feature from Charlie Bowman at MLSsoccer.com. Shout out to Charlie on that one. He always digs up some really good details. Gozo, I'm just gonna give you some details from standing on the sideline, and then just kind of you can take them where you want. Gozo is physically a freak. Like his ability to not just straight line run, but change direction and have a different level of agility than everybody around him is very, very clear watching him. Brian Schmetzer was absolutely he was beyond a level of anger that I've ever experienced with Brian at halftime. He was like, can somebody make a play on this kid? We are just letting him fly by us all the time. And I was like, well, that, in turn, I was like, yeah, that's both effort and what you're putting into it. Certainly, I don't think the Sounders were at their best in that sense defensively, but also this kid's just ridiculous. Like he will run past a lot of people in this league repeatedly. his positioning, his understanding of wingback is very, very raw. And that's not a knock on him at all. He's just picked up this position. He told me he played right back when he was 6, 8, 7 years old. That's a little bit of a different level than he's doing it now. And the entire game, it is Pablo and Anthony Poulos on the bench screaming positions, step, drop, inside. Like the whole game, they are yelling at Gozo in every single game phase about where to be on the field.
This is why no one wants to play on the outside.
Yeah, whether that's defensively, whether that's going forward, whether that's set pieces. Like they are literally training him on the fly. And Gozo told me, I talked to him last week. He was like, "Yeah, man, I'm learning." And it's coming, but he's like, every moment I'm learning. And he said, I can watch a lot of tape. That's one thing. I just need to do it. And so he says he's learning much more in practice and in games. But my God, I mean, and then to make the decision that he made to drop it to Piol, he's unbelievable. Moisa has a huge engine. I think he's still maybe a step or two behind the game pace in terms of like getting into the positions and having the physicality to like win balls in the right spots, but he's so active. And when he did get the ball in advanced positions, I thought he was actually really tidy and had a good eye for how to, move the ball forward and find the 2-10s or find a fullback who's flying forward overlapping. And then Herzakani, I mean, he's got something. I'm not sure what it translates to long term, but like it translates to a good amount of playing time this year off the bench. I don't think as a starter, unless injuries like they are now are affecting RSL, but I had a great time talking with him afterwards. He's like, my family's not here. They're in California. I'm going to call my mom and dad afterward. They're going to be crying. He just sort of was in this, in the state that you would be in after your lifelong dream is accomplished. So it was really fun, and credit to RSL because they're giving these guys a platform, and Moisa especially, I don't think they thought he was even going to be here. And now look what he's done 2 games in.
They invested a ton in this academy, right? They've tried to build this, and this should be the strength of it, which is it gives you depth and it potentially gives you star quality to fill in across your starting lineup. They are missing Yedlin, who started last game, went down, Luna, Olatunji, Anelli, and Arias. And then Piol went down at the end of this game and looked heartbroken.
Yeah. Yeah.
You could tell
I
his reaction.
hadn't seen that confirmed, but that's the rumblings that they were going to get a scan for it. It's tough.
So that is unfortunately for them more time that they have to fill in, but these kids have stepped up and they've played awesome. And I think what you saw in Vancouver was like confidence to go and battle and not be overawed by the moment of being stuck on the road against the best team in the Western Conference without all of these support systems that should be around you. And then Gulavogi comes off the bench in this one. Doyle just looked really impressive in the 20 minutes he was in there. Hits a through ball with his first pass that should have been a goal if Booth knows how to dribble forwards, taking the Brendan Aronson route on that one. But like really big performance from him to be this star player who could maybe tie some of this together for them.
Go ahead, Wiebe. I can tell you're on.
No, I want your take, and then I'll sort of follow up because I have takes on him.
They're going to play a 2-1. Right, it's going to be a 3-4-2-1, and part of that is to put Gozo out wide, where he's going to get sort of more of a runway to receive and go at back lines. And like if you could turn Nuhu into an orange cone, you could turn almost anybody into an orange cone. But that also spreads things out and should give Gulavogi and either Herzakani or Luna when Luna gets back space underneath to operate. So far, so good. Like it wasn't like a perfect second half. It wasn't a great final 25 minutes, but you could see the talent, and with talent usually comes end product, and that's what this team was missing for good chunks of last year. And you go out and you get a DP to fix that. And bear in mind, they still have a DP slot open, so they have more work that they could do. I kind of hope they just sit on it until the summer and let the kids continue to cook, because through 2 games, there's no reason to think, oh, we can't keep this going, right? They played arguably the toughest schedule. And like we all think that Vancouver and Seattle are top 5 teams of this league. There hasn't been a tougher schedule that anybody else has faced in terms of just the quality of opposition. So I hope they keep it going. And obviously, I think Gulavogi is going to be a big part of that from the whistle, starting probably as soon as next week.
I want to make sure we just add that, in terms of the investment and what they've done and how they're trying to play, like Juan Manuel Sanabria on the left is a huge piece as well.
Yeah.
I didn't think he was at his absolute best in this game, but you saw that ball that came across that Herzakani finished. What Pablo told me this week is like what he has is just he chooses the right ball every time. And then he always has a secondary action off of every attacking move that he makes. It's never like ball played, freeze. It's ball played and move. I still think he's sort of integrating the team. I think he got his visa Thursday night, so it was like up in the air whether or not he was even going to be available. Starting at Aguila Vogie is number one. Let's just start. You're next to him. You're saying he is big. He's large. I don't think he's going to have a ton of issues physically, and you saw that in this game, the way he sort of shrugged off challenges, and not just shrugged off challenges, but stayed really, really balanced and also just field aware in those moments. He's efficient with his touches. He's always finding ways to play forward, and I think he fits perfectly in sort of the 9.5. Like, is he a 9? Sometimes. Is he a 10? Yeah, sometimes. Role that they're going to have him play. He was spraying the ball wide. He was hitting those through balls. He was getting himself. He was drawing fouls. He probably should have scored. Like, I thought that run that he made to get in behind, similar to the Booth one, like that is the best mixture of who he can be. It's like, yeah, he can play the through ball. Yeah, he can spin it wide and get in and be a secondary runner, but he can also break through the line when Olatuji inevitably comes back a little bit. And then when Luna's on the ball with space to look up, good Lord. And then what they want to do is it looks a little bit like what the Crew have done under Nancy, but less possession based, I think. Much more like quickly vertical. And you're going to see a lot of times for RSL where 5 guys are standing in a straight line across the front line, like we've often seen with the Crew in the past. And it's not going to be static. Like if you were watching Sanabria and Booth in particular, they were switching positions. Booth was pulling wide, Sanabria was coming inside. Then they're kind of overlapping when a player gets his head up. And you saw a little bit of that on the goal that Gozo dishes to Piol as well. Like if Philip Quinton gets time on the ball out there and he has guys who can run past people, dump it over the top.
Yeah.
Dump it over the top.
I do think the Yedlin loss is big because not only do I think
huge.
He helps them in that side, his ability to cover space behind
Correct.
allows Gozo to be more dangerous and make his life easier. Quinton got cooked a couple times, but he can hang and hold, and like it doesn't mean they have to change style and formation.
He is your clear backup. He is your backup doing what he did.
It feels like a big loss in that what they're missing from Yedlin, and he'll fit in perfectly when he comes back. Where some of these other, like, they're covering for Anelli right now, so it's not as heartbreaking.
And Junkwa and Engel are not Yedlin level, like can push forward guys from the 3 center back positions, but they are mobile and they are willing to step forward and pass. So
we might have to do a session here with Lucas Engel, me and Doyle, just being like, and I haven't even gone fully like Doyle has, but like, come on, man, you can't go Buzz on that. That it looks worse Buzz than it does Long, and it just looks bad in general. So I might have to hit him up. And
can I just ask on Doyle's side? It was one of the first things I know. This is are we fresh bick Sunday night? Are we making sure Mondays are
No, this is not bicked. This is not bicked. This was
wow. What kind of technology are you using here?
It's like a $15 one from I don't know. It might have been from Walmart. Maybe. Do you think?
I could have been. You know what? It's doing the sort of job that I would expect a Walmart head shave trimmer to do. I don't know the technology on this. You guys have to educate me.
Yeah, you're probably never gonna have to learn, man. You got
I pray.
head of hair.
I pray.
Wiebe was in the house because of the Walmart Saturday game, along with Michele.
Yes, it was. And you know what?
Team.
Yeah, it was a dream team. Michele and I also got in 13 holes in the morning. I know you guys are very interested in that. So just 13, because call times, brother. So
you sign up for 18 and just leave at some point?
Yeah, you just dip out when you have to. Yeah. No, it was a good time.
Did you guys get a steak? Because I'll tell you, Salt Lake City, super underrated food town.
No, I did. I got sushi.
Did you go to Tony's?
Late night sushi
place?
I don't know. I have to go look up what it
like
is.
Everyone always tells you to go when you go. His family, Tony Beltran, who is now like assistant GM or whatnot. His family, I think it's his in-laws, own a sushi restaurant in Salt Lake City, which I'm looking up now, which everyone tells you is the best sushi you've ever had.
Well, listen, I don't remember where we went. I'm just going to tell you that we went to Tony Beltran's. It was very good. Salt Lake City in general, wildly underrated place.
Agreed.
Kind of gets a rep that is undeserved, and probably because people haven't been there. Listen, it was delightful, and RSL are always such a great host. And then, the Seattle Sounders are a team that I'm so interested in what this year is for so many so many players on that team. I'm very curious to see how it goes. I don't think that this was a game that they're going to look back on fondly at all. And I'm incredulous that it has been since 2012 that they have won in that building. Like it boggles the mind given how good that team has been and sort of the ups and downs that RSL have had. But yeah, both these teams are looking like playoff teams in the West. There's no doubt about it.
Let me say this. So for Seattle, it was their first goal in Sandy, Utah since 2020. This has been a house of horrors for them. They have not won in 16 games at RSL. And I put down that Freddie Juarez left RSL in the middle of 2021 season. So while there's an extra year there, there's a little bit of Curse of Bambino stuff. You got to ask how many goals Freddie Juarez is worth and whether it's gone right or wrong for Seattle. But I'm hoping this lasts forever. I'm hoping Seattle never wins in Salt Lake and we have like 100 years where then we can like teach children about Freddie Juarez and what he meant to Salt Lake.
Let me ask you guys this. Is just a random question that I was pondering before and after the game. Who plays more minutes this year at the 9, Asaze Di Rosario or Danny Musovski?
No, I think the clock is ticking on Osaze.
Yeah.
I had really high hopes, and he has not done a ton over the
Your high hopes
couple
is
of
that
games.
for a guy his size, he has pretty good feet and does some stuff? Because he's not super engaged in the game.
Yeah, my high hopes are that he was able to find chances in the box at a high level as a starter in the way he did last year, primarily coming off
And the way he
bench.
did in preseason, by the way. I think he had like 5 games in preseason.
Yeah, and you know what? He did it in the Leagues Cup final. So like we know it's in there. I just wonder how much leash he's going to get because look, Danny Musovski is a professional goal scorer, and you know that he's going to hit a high level, and there's always pressure on the guy trying to take the job, and the clock is ticking a little bit. I would still take. I still think Osaze is going to put the ball in the back of the net, and he's going to win the job and probably be the number one, center forward for this team. But I am less confident of that than I was 12 days ago.
So before we get out of this segment, I have to hit up Kilgore Pilgrim on Blue Sky, who a week or two ago, when I went through the schedule coming out of CCL for teams and what they have to go through in the league, I read through Seattle's schedule and was like, oh, it's not that hard in terms of matchups. And their immediate response was, this team gets crushed in Salt Lake City. So you're an idiot. They followed up to my Blue Sky that I put out there every Sunday night, being like, what should we talk about? Being like, talk about RSL's continued dominance over Seattle and Sandy. So shout out to that person. And then to note for Seattle, because of the field with the World Cup, they won't play a home game until April 12th. They'll play one in CONCACAF, which will be in Spokane against Vancouver. Otherwise, they play every game on the road in MLS action. They actually come back home and play RSL in that first game. And then they have a stretch of home games on natural grass at Lumen. And then obviously we go into the World Cup break. I think the quote Kanji gave during the broadcast that Schmetzer, someone said, was like, we'll play 17 home games and 17 away games. Like, who cares? That's what Schmetzer would say. And that's what's, but it's something to pay attention to, which is our beloved Seattle Shield race. It's probably already dead because of the nature of the way this season's going to go. And it's probably going to be a little bit rocky, especially they've got Vancouver in CCL. So it's a tough matchup. It's a big one as well. So it's just something to look out for with Seattle. All right, Weebs, where are you going to be next week?
Oh, good. Look at you just guiding me right into it. The Walmart Saturday Showdown is going to beautiful Columbus, Ohio. Chicago Fire are in town. Looking forward to I think it's a really good matchup in the East. So you can watch that one at 7:30 p.m. Eastern time on Apple TV on Saturday. And this is great timing because the siren call from producer Rich is coming through. Andrew, come record instant replay. So just letting everybody know. Remember, if you have referee shouts, controversial calls, things you don't agree with, or things, I guess you could hit me up with things you thought were really well done. I'm on Blue Sky. I'm on the platform formerly known as Twitter. So holler at me there.
All right, thanks, Weeby, for being here. 7 red cards to go look at, so go have fun.
I got my work cut out for me. Adios, boys.
Always great to have Weeby here with us for these. Let's hit some headlines, and then as I said, we will touch on every single game from the weekend. Anyone listening to Sirius Radio, as I said, we're going to go a little bit long, so if you want the full show, go to the on-demand player, or you can go listen wherever you get your podcasts. Let's start in San Jose, where Timo Werner made his debut off the bench in a 2-0 win over Atlanta. Preston Judd gets another goal. Jamar Ricketts looked good. DeJuan Jones looked good. Doyle, I know this was a team you were really high on. Maybe it's not the most impressive opponents to start with at home against SKC in Atlanta, but 2-0 straight out the gate. 2 wins is pretty good.
Yeah, easiest schedule in the league so far. Let's be clear on that. But these are also games that they would have figured out a way to give away points last year. And they would have figured that out because they were a sieve defensively. And part of that was Daniel being terrible in goals, a shot stopper in 2025. The bigger part of it to me was that they got zero defense from that front line. And so they allowed super valuable passes, like literally directly into the heart of central midfield. And through 2 games, the way Preston Judd and Jamar Ricketts and Sini Buddha have worked in that front 3, and then Nico Chakiris underneath them, they are preventing those sort of passes. They're forcing opposing teams wide. Again, it's Sporting Kansas City and it's Atlanta. Not want to read too much into it, but the structure is really good. The structure is an improvement, as is the effort over last year. And then, Chakiris has been excellent through 2 games. He's not putting up huge numbers, but like he's been involved in all 5 of the goal or 4 of the 5 goals that they've scored. Like he looks like a 2-way number 10 in the way that you want. And then they added, Timo Werner to the mix. Werner came on. I was surprised at this. He came on for Preston Judd. I thought they would play together because Werner has always played better off a true number 9, which is what Judd is. But he came on and he played the number 9, and it was just like instantly changed everything about the Quakes because Judd stays high and he occupies the center backs and he's a target. And he's really good at that. Werner is like swapping places with Buddha, dropping deep, like expecting Chakiris to run off the ball into space in front of him and attack that space. And there was, I think, for about 15 minutes, there was some confusion, and you could see it because the Quakes were still getting to good spots and creating what should have been chances, but there was no run up the middle, right? There was no near post run. And at around the 75th minute mark, you could see it maybe click a little bit with Werner. He was like, I guess I just kind of got to be a forward here. And he was from that point onwards. And it led
and he creates the second goal.
The second goal. Yeah. And that was a 17 pass build up.
Yeah, it was beautiful.
The Quakes looked really good. Part of this is Atlanta had kind of given up at that point. So, like, again, don't read
at that
too
point
much
or
into
before
it.
the game started.
Atlanta looked really bad. San Jose looked really good.
Yeah.
Really, really good. I mentioned Chakiris, Bolaroo, really good. Ian Harks, he's starting at D-mid now because Vieira is hurt for a little bit. He had one of his best games at MLS, in my opinion. And then Reed Roberts and Daniel Muni in central defense. And these are both draft picks from the past couple of years, and they're youngish domestic players. And it's easy to overlook that, but Bruce Arena, man, the way he's developed young domestic center backs, going all the way back to Eddie Pope 30 years ago. Obviously, Omar Gonzalez and AJ De La Garza, Henry Kessler before all the injuries in New England. Like, he has a track record, and it looks like these guys are next in line. The Quakes are going to be much better than what people thought they were.
Yeah, I thought it was cool. I mean, cool is probably not the right term, but we talked about it a little bit with Werner of like, the thing he does well, he should do great. And if he does it great, he'll be worth it. There is also that little opening with some of these guys where it's like, he's such a high level player, maybe he can do more. And I think you kind of saw it on the goal of like, goes into the channel, immediately looks up. And I thought he dictated the game a little bit for them, for the guys around him, Buddha and whatnot, of like, right, you are, a German national team veteran. Like, can you make the game easier for the guys around you and do the thing you do well? And this team puts in so many crosses that he should just get chances, even if he plays poorly. And then you saw the way he changed the space on that goal for them. Yeboah on Blue Sky asked us to talk about Quake's defensive solidity. So you were right there with him. And Atlanta, it's just been really, really bad to start the year. Atlanta and Charlotte, I don't know who they wronged. Their schedule started with an away Midwest game, back home to an away California game. Opening 2 weeks, both of them got smoked on the West Coast. So I don't know what's going on in the battle.
Neither does Tata Martino, by the way. He had some he had some quotes afterwards, and it was you could read in the negative space, sort of like what was left unsaid. I'd imagine it's going to be a brutal week of training for the Five Stripes, because that is an unhappy manager.
And the expectation on the road, I put this down. 3 away teams won this weekend. It was LAFC and Miami, who most would consider the 2 best teams in the league, and NYCFC, who also started with 2 road games in a red card against Philadelphia. We'll talk about that more. Only one won the first week. So, like, throw the parlay down of home team results for every single game and see what happens in Major League Soccer, because you watch the first 4-6 games of the weekend on Saturday, and it's like, oh, right, yeah, this is what happens. It's just really hard to go on the road and get a result in MLS. Okay, we are going to talk a little bit here about Vancouver TFC, but if you're listening on Sirius, we're going to leave you now, so go find the show on demand or anywhere you get your podcast, but thank you for joining us. And we're going to talk Canada. TFC have not won in Vancouver in 5.5 years, 10 straight matches that they have not beaten Vancouver. And for Vancouver, they get a little bit healthier in this game than they've been in the opening few games, where it's been a little bit of a struggle across CONCACAF and MLS play. Getting Blackman back is huge for the back line. It moves Laborda over to the left back spot, and Vancouver comes out and just blitzes Toronto off the field. And there's no comparison between the two teams when you watch this game. Vancouver were able to create chances out of the back through their buildup. They were aggressive 1v1 in the front, attacking third of the field. AZ Jackson looks to be fitting in. Badwell looks awesome so far. Like, they didn't have Sabi. They don't have Ali Ahmed. They don't have Ryan Gauld. And this team doesn't really miss a beat. I think that's been like one of the huge strengths of Jesper Sorensen. And I wrote down here, Ralph Priso is just an assumed starting center back now.
Yeah.
Like, that is such a wild world that we live in. And Toronto wishes they had someone like him, maybe. I don't know how they could have ever had a player like that available to them. But it's so impressive, his ability to embolden these players and then get them to step up and play at a high level.
Yeah, it's like what we were talking about with the Red Bulls and Michael Bradley, and taking these guys who were at one time considered really high-level prospects that just didn't pan out for whatever reason, and now putting them in their early 20s, putting them in a position to succeed and continuing to coach them, right? You could see that Ralph Priso was a better and more confident player than he was a year ago. I thought that the job Jesper Sorensen did coaching that team last year was the single best coaching job I've seen in 30 years of covering this league. And it looks like it's continuing. All 3 goals, I should say, were off of set pieces. So they're not quite flowing with the ball the way they were at their best last year. But
although Brian White had looks.
Yeah, he had looks, and he finally got one. He scored the 3rd goal in this one. And with him, okay, you get one, and then they tend to start coming in bunches. So maybe the floodgates open now. But even with it being a little ponderous, the first game and a half, or, well, I guess counting CCL, the first 3 games, it's everything is in place for me to believe that this will be a top 3, top 5 team in the league at the very least. And we spend a lot of time talking about Messi and Son. Thomas Mueller still got it.
Mm-hmm.
Watching this guy play soccer, man, his movement, his efficiency, his creativity, and unselfishness with the way he does it is just, I don't have the words. Like, I love watching this dude play. Just love it.
It will be fascinating when Gauld comes back, because I still think Mueller could be more effective if he's less central, because he could go and find the game off the ball and find the spaces where he scores goals. Where, like, there's some responsibility as a 10 right now in the way he plays for this team, which he can do, but I don't know if it's his best skill set. And it might just be the 2 of them swap in and out of the same spaces, and it just makes life easier. Also, that's a world in which Gauld gets back on the field and plays, which I don't know when that's going to happen. The other name that popped in my head this weekend was Veselinovic, which I have not heard much about. He went out in the summer with the ACL. If he comes back, they have the best center back department in the league, for sure, with him in there. I thought he was better than Blackman the last year and a half.
He was.
When he was healthy. So now you bring that in. It opens up Priso to maybe play other positions. Maybe you go 3 at the back sometimes if you want to. Like, it just creates a lot more options. And Vancouver will need them if they're going to make a CONCACAF run. They're going to play in Canadian Championship. Like, there's a ton of travel with everything they do. So that might just be as simple as that. But that's going to be a huge add for this team at some point this year. For TFC, we think Josh Sargent's going to be in the building. I assume he'll play next week. It does not seem like that's going to be enough out the gate with how tough things have been defensively up the spine and how fragile they've looked. But also, a huge star player who scores goals for you can change things. I don't know. I'm open to waiting on it with Toronto FC, but it's been a really bad start to the season.
Yeah, I'm not going to exactly give them a mulligan, but patience is necessary. I will say there's some concerning stuff with their positioning. If you look, like they're so the gaps between their defenders huge. The positioning of their midfielders that don't really make sense, and so nothing flows in their progression. Right? You watch Vancouver play, and the next pass is always there. Right?
Mm-hmm.
It always makes sense, and Toronto have none of that through
Yep.
2 weeks, and it's concerning because I'm not convinced it's all a talent issue. You know, like I think this might be Robin Fraser, needing to get into the film room a little bit and figure out how to better transmit his ideas to his team.
Shallowy got the start in this one. It was Etienne Jr. up top, so that will be Sargent's spot whenever he's fully available to start, which is a question mark. Hasn't played for Norwich, was playing with the U21s in training and all of that. All right, we're going to hit a bunch of these games now. Some quick thoughts on most of them. I just put them in random orders for the most part time, but I started with SKC Columbus because, I don't know, I just really enjoyed this game. I think it's always fun watching Columbus. They're pretty open and flowing. I thought SKC came to play in this matchup. They are not as dangerous as a Columbus team is, and they will probably struggle to control games and dominate possession, but they seemed up for it. They were fairly direct, and they were dangerous when they did so. I thought they hung in this game, and then the Polscam PK save, the building was like jumping, and it reminded me that when this building is good, when this team is competitive, it has been one of the best atmospheres in soccer in the U.S. for the last 20 years. It was one of the game-changing places to elevate the league and push the sport forward in this country. And it felt very back in that moment. They then proceeded to go on and not create another chance for the final 10 minutes and not go win at home. But I don't know. I was so low on SKC. I think this was pretty promising for me of like, okay, this is a team that will be relevant and hang in an MLS game.
It was a fun moment, and Dejan Joveljic is just a professional goal scorer.
He is
and
a monster.
They knew exactly how they were going to get out in transition against this Columbus team and create chances, and they did it a couple times. And they got 2 goals out of it, and that was nice. I still don't think this is a team that's going to be able to compete. 35 points would surprise me. Columbus, the head coach Henrik Rydstrom, he's really good in the post-game press conferences. He talked about how bad their pressing structure was and why Sporting were able to get out in transit. So between that and leaving a couple of chances on the board, like they could have had 4 or 5. 1 point from 2 games, both on the road. So grain of salt. But he's a really frustrated guy already. And, losing Darlington Nagbe, you lose more than just one player, right? You lose maybe the ability to execute the game plan in the exact style you want, and he's got to solve for that really quick.
It feels like, every major loss on the field they've had over the last 2 years, they have replaced fine but worse, and you're like half measures behind in all of these spots. And that feels, and now you're like, okay.
It has a cascade effect.
Yeah.
Right? If you're 95% as good in this spot as you were 2 years ago, it actually ends up being more than a 5% loss because that impacts the guys around you.
Like Wessam Abu Ali is awesome. Cucho is better. That's just the reality. I mean, I don't know. I wouldn't even put anyone else in central midfield in the name with Nagbe. If you want to say it's Zawatsky who's replacing him, then whoever's replacing Zawatsky next to him, who's replacing Aiden Morris or whatever, that's a huge step down, whether it's Picard or Gazdag, who scores and comes out of a game with everyone feeling worse about him, which is like a unique experience to be able to have in an MLS game. Let's talk Chicago, Montreal. Chicago went down a man and scored twice late on, but out the opening kickoff, Montreal played back and then turned it over straight into Kuiper's feet on literally the opening kickoff of the game. Tried to play out throughout the game, looked directionless, and Chicago looked pretty efficient with all of it. And like, Chicago looked good. It's hard to say that when you play Montreal at home, but I thought Chicago looked good.
Yeah, I'm not sure I agree with that. I thought it was just Montreal being terrible. Like maybe a special historical kind of bad. Like that's what we might be looking at with Montreal. If I'm Greg Berhalter, and I wrote this in my column, I am not allowing the guys to celebrate this win. I am saying we're frustrated because we didn't put this away by halftime.
Yeah.
Like that is where I would be at if I was Berhalter after this one. Don't take anything else away because you're not gonna play a team that bad again this year.
Ivan Jaime got the start, so his first appearance since the injury back in October. There was like 2 moments where he had a spark. Otherwise, he was invisible in this game, as everyone on Montreal was. So I know you're a bit freelance now. You might be pulled in to write a letter from the ownership group from Montreal to the fans talking about a reset and just give them time because it's all coming pretty soon for this Montreal group once again. Colorado, 2-0 win over Portland. We've got a lot of questions about Portland. We got a question in the chat as well about Colorado that said, did they fix things or was this Portland being bad? So the other question we have is Shrek PDX on Blue Sky, who says, what's the real Portland? They're all kind of in the same space.
Yeah. I don't think that there's any difference between this year's. There's likely not going to be any difference between this year's Portland and last year's Portland in terms of function and tactical approach. Like they just are who they are. And you hope that Cole Bassett is an upgrade and can make things a little bit better in central midfield. You hope that they have a little more depth, I guess, and so that maybe that makes them hold up better over the second half of the season because they were a disaster last year. But also, the reason they stayed at the same level in points from 24 to 25, 24, they were just carried by Evander and Cabecita. Those guys obviously weren't around in 25, so how did they stay on this? It's because they didn't give up set piece goals, right? Like they weren't the best defensive team in the league on set piece, but they weren't a disaster. And against Colorado, they were a disaster. And it's weird that Portland didn't really press the Rapids much when the Rapids are very clearly going to try to play out of everything. Yeah, and you could make hay with that, especially early in the season when touches are sloppy and you know, even if the ideas are there, the execution might not be there. So it was a confusing performance all around from the Timbers, but give the Rapids credit. They were pretty good the final 20 minutes against the Sounders in week 1, and they were far superior team in week 2. They need to get more passing onto the field if they're going to be a passing team like that. Just you would think that would be obvious. But like, I don't know. I'm not going to say I'm optimistic, but it was a step forward over the first hour that we saw of them. Like they were playing soccer. They weren't just kicking chunks out of everybody.
No, I thought they were fun to watch. I thought Avahu was super engaged and involved and dropped in and picked up the ball. And so if you can get runners ahead of him, you can create chances there. I thought Reggie Cannon was awesome, coming inside, playing super active, being a part of the game. But Portland did not put up a ton of fight and then did not look capable of scoring an equalizer. And the opening goal, I don't know what anyone's doing. No one pressures the ball. Pantomas, I know he takes the half step because of the deflection, but I think he was already off center. And so he is already a step away from where he wants to be. And it just felt like a comedy of errors for this group. Speaking of Evander, did not play in the 1-0 loss on the road to Minnesota. But Kelvin Yeboah, baby, the Golden Boot race is on. He's got 2 goals in 2 games for this team. Minnesota plays soccer now, Doyle. Accept it and move on.
Yeah, Michael Boxall basically said that on, I think it was Countdown on, you know, leading into the Saturday night games. He was like, it's nice to have 40% possession. Yeah. And they play soccer, but this game, you know, this goal came off a set piece. Yeboah did a good job. It was a Wando goal, right? He was on his toes for a rebound off a set piece. It was like 17 degrees there. It's
It was
I would
tough
not want
soccer.
to play.
Yeah.
I would
Yeah.
not want to play in that. And for Cincy, like I'm giving them the mulligan. This is their 4th game in 10 days. Like a 4-game sequence that started with them playing in like 90-degree weather in the tropics and finishes on the frozen tundra. I think they're gonna be fine, whether or not Evander comes back really soon. But the interesting thing is like, okay, what are we seeing here with Minnesota? What is their ceiling going to be? Because 4 points from these 2 games is a good start to the season.
Yeah. Dallas, Nashville.
We don't need to talk
0-0.
about it. We don't need to talk about it.
Matthew Cochran gets a red card back at his old building. That's kind of how I felt as well. I mentioned Charlotte and whatever curse they got from the schedulers. They go to the Midwest, St. Louis to start the year. Then they come back to Charlotte. Now they go to the LA Galaxy in theory, but technically they didn't show up. 13 minutes in, 3 goals conceded, blitzed out the gate. I wrote down, I could probably play left back for Charlotte because Toffolo is in his own world. I don't know what his spacing is. I don't know what position he plays. But then I was like, maybe I could play left center back for Charlotte.
Maybe this game you could have played center back. Yeah.
Yeah. And then I was like, well, Andrew Privett's passing to the wrong team, so maybe I could play right center back as well for this team. So I'm open to the idea. Dean Smith, give me a call if you're looking for an extra body. I know you like a veteran. I am old. I am not a veteran because I've not done it before, but I am old. But let's talk Galaxy first, and then we'll get to our question from Blue Sky. I think it's been more positive. I talked about it with Peck on Thursday. I think he's been engaged. I think he's tried to move around the field. It sort of takes him out of his most dangerous areas, but then puts him in other ones. And this game, it felt like the Galaxy, they go no Marco Royce. So it's really like 3 ground coverage center mids. And I thought that opened up for the front 3 to be able to have flexibility to find the game where they want to. And then Sanabria did the work he had to do to at least be a 4th option in attacking areas to cause chaos.
Yeah, and it allowed actually Klaus to be the focal point because Klaus he's a big guy, big number 9, and you think, oh, he's just going to be a guy who gets into the box, but like that's not really his game. He likes to drift around and conduct things a little bit, and by having no number 10 in central midfield, that sort of made Klaus the playmaker. No, he ended up scoring 2 of the goals, but I think it gave LA some clarity. That said, I don't want to read too much into it because the first 15 minutes of this game were like the worst 15 minutes of Andrew Privett's life. And give credit to the Galaxy for putting the game away and then keeping the 0. Charlotte going back to that 9-game winning streak, which ended with that big win over Miami I think it was like mid-September. They've now played 9 games across all competitions. They've only won 2 of them. They've only scored 2 goals in their last 5 games. I want to say it is. Their expected goals over that 9-game stretch is -8. Their actual goal difference is -8. So none of this is outlier. Like all of this is happening the way it should happen. And like usually you take it with a grain of salt because it's like, well, last year's team, this year's team. But they brought back a lot of last year's team, right? Like there weren't huge changes here. My point is that it's very clearly not working. Their next 5 are at home. They need to start getting wins. If they don't, it'll get late real early for this Charlotte team.
The question we had from Blue Sky was from James Perez, CTL, who said, why isn't Charlotte playing Berchamas more? I know you've maybe had a thought or two about this, so I was going to let you give the background and then the answer.
English coaches just traditionally don't play young players.
There you go. That is both the background and the answer. Berchamas was one of the stars, if you don't know, for the USU 17 team, one of the first homegrown signings for this club in history. There were reports that he was close to a deal with Bayern Munich in this offseason, and it never ended up happening. And then I think Dean Smith sort of, when asked about it, was like, yeah, well, he trained with the first team a little, but has really been with the second team. I actually think he scored in MLS Next Pro.
Yeah, scored a banger
this weekend. So it just feels like the attack is somewhat lifeless for this team, and this is an option. And it feels like Charlotte fans are asking for it, hence what we're getting on Blue Sky. Let's talk Austin, DC. Superman, baby. Christian Ramirez signed. He got cut a week ago, like on Friday afternoon from the LA Galaxy. And then he signs on Friday afternoon this week with Austin FC, and he goes and scores in his debut. He puts home a set piece that got knocked around, got cleared off the line, and he's able to get it over the line for a 1-0 victory over DC United at home for Austin. It wasn't overwhelmingly impressive. DC feels fairly structured and hard to break down, so it's not easy. I think, and this is what I wrote down, I think Facundo Torres is trying. Like the question that everyone had when they signed him was, well, he's a finisher. He's not a creator. You need a creator. You need someone centrally. And I don't know when Owen Wolff comes back, if he remains in that spot or how it shifts. But in this game, he picked up central areas. I thought he tried to move the game from left to right. He ended up having 5 chances created, 1 big chance. It is not naturally what he's great at, but he is at least being put in that spot.
We got to put the asterisk on it. The 5 chances he created, I think all 5 of them were off of set pieces, and his set piece delivery was phenomenal. But if you look at the chance creation numbers, I think Austin generated 1.5 xG, and like 1.3 of that was off restarts. It was 0.2 against DC at home.
I couldn't see that through the sun, so I agree.
Right, yeah, exactly. Look, Facu Torres is never going to be the type of guy who sits there in possession and just rips open a team with a touch. He will finish those plays off, though, and he will finish plays off in transition. Right now, Austin's transition decision making, leaving a lot to be desired. So there's work to do, but they got the win. It hasn't been a super impressive start to the season. I think they would have hoped for more than 4 points from these 2 games at home, but something to build on at least.
And DC hung together. They don't create a lot of chances. They were not dangerous in this game, but they hung in there on the road.
Muntiano only played 12 minutes this game.
Luis?
Lewis? I think it's Luis Muntiano, right?
But he just wants to go by Lewis.
Okay.
That's why it says it on his jersey.
Okay. Well, Louis played 20 last week and actually played less this week. I don't know what that means. Yeah. I'm not sure it means anything, but it's something I'm watching for the weeks to come, because he's supposed to be the chance creator for this team, and this team had 0 chance creation out there on the day.
Yeah, Rennie Weiler looking like a sunburned man out there on the sideline in Austin. All right, last 2 games to talk about, and 2 of the better ones of the weekend. I probably did this order wrong. Let's start with NYCFC at Philly. Fernando's Mercado helps create the opening goal, has the shot from a tough angle that Hannes Wolf puts away. He got the start once again in that sort of center forward role. No one really plays it. I thought he looked more comfortable in that spot this game than anyone did last week, where felt like he understood some of the spaces he had to pick up. But NYCFC, they'll play through Philly. Like they are not scared of it. And so this is a great matchup for them, because it's feast or famine. If they make the mistakes, Philly's going to have the chances and they can score. But NYCFC is not going to back down at any point. And I think you saw through this game, they were able to hold up, and eventually they get the victory once the red card happens.
Yeah, with Keaton Parks back healthy, pressing pressing NYCFC is really, really tough, because he's the most press resistant number 8 in the league now that Darlington Nagbe's retired, and he does it in a different way. But it's still the same principle. And the number of times they sort of closed in on him and he was able to turn out of that and create downhill attacking momentum for NYCFC. It was a lot. It was a lot. And if Seymour Reed could have finished one of those 2 or 3 breakaways he had after he came on, we might talking about this being sort of a DEFCON 2 moment for Phil. I mean, it might be DEFCON 2 anyway.
Yeah.
Right? Because they opened the season at DC and home against NYCFC. And last year, that's 6 points.
Mm-hmm.
And this year, they're sitting on 0 points. They lost Macania to a red card, which I thought was a little harsh. And they, their one goal was frankly a gift of a penalty call. They weren't able to sort of lock it down at the end, even playing 10v11. They gave up a late winner. Like all of the
Yeah.
boxes got checked by the Union in this one. And I went digging in the numbers because like I know what I'm seeing, right? It's a little more scattered. It's a little less coherent in how they're pressing. And once they do get on the ball, they're definitely less dangerous with it than they were last year. All of the pressing numbers are the same as last year, except for tackles. They're attempting like 25% more tackles per game. And that is a little bit worrying because that tells me they're chasing a little bit. They're going into more do or die desperation moments. Last year, not only were they attempting fewer tackles, they won. It was over like 46% of them, which was the number one mark in the league.
Yeah.
This year, they're only winning 33%, which over the course of the season would have been last in MLS by a mile. And then you go back and you watch NYCFC's opening goal, and the big moment was a missed tackle, just a little bit late in central midfield. And it's like, if you're going to be a pressing team, very clearly they're going to be a pressing team. Like
They have no choice.
There's no indication that there's going to be any change in the game model. You cannot be a team that misses tackles like that. You can't, or else you're going to lose.
And then the in possession stuff, we talked about Kai Wagner. We knew that was going to be big. I think Quinn Sullivan is massive as a loss for them. Of anyone with some ingenuity in possession, once it's turned over, to break something open, whether it's beating someone on a dribble or a pass in the moment or the quality of the pass that you don't expect. And it felt like in this game, then Damiani starts chasing around to try and find the game a little bit because he's not getting set up in the box. And now you don't have the finishers in there. And it felt like that cascading effect is the pressure that was relieved last year because the system just created goals and they didn't have to go and find it. And now you see the stress of sort of what we've talked about with Red Bulls for years of like, if goals don't come, now the game gets hard. Now everyone gets frustrated. Now they have to go try and figure it out. And now you sort of break down what you're great at. I agree on the red card, but I put on Blue Sky that. Then after that, he asked for VAR for the corner kick that he thought he was wrongly given against him. It's a freaking corner kick in a regular season game. Get over it. And so, yeah, I agree that the red card was soft, but I was upset about that one after that one. Let's close out with...
Let me ask you this really quick. Preseason, we were doing our predictions. I chose NYCFC third in the East.
Yeah.
How do we feel about that?
I think I had them fifth. I still don't feel great without the 9.
Mm-hmm.
Like, they're just... You look at the heat map, you watch the game, there is not a presence centrally, and you are taking good players out of position. Like, there's no world that you watch these two games and say Fernando Marcau's as dangerous as he should be. Talles Magno comes in. He technically, I think, gets the assist on the goal. If that guy has to play center forward again, like, that's the end of his season. He's clearly done, right? So I think I like a lot of the way they're set up. I like the spine of the team. Freeze has been good to start the year as well. I think the Australian kid they brought in is really good. So then you've blunted, I think, the loss of Justin Hack. And if Keaton Parks is healthy, that's a whole bonus from last year that didn't exist for this team. But the goal scoring still feels thin. So I had them at fifth, I think, which is what they finished last year. I feel fine between 3 and 6 with them. But if they had a true center forward, I would feel fine saying like, oh no, this is a team that challenges the top 2 in the East. And I don't feel that way.
Yeah. How do you feel about Seymour Reed?
Can't say that I've seen enough minutes at the pro level to say that that's the solution.
Let me give a little bit, like just first of all, goal scoring numbers. He's right there with Julian Hall and Ryan Alumi, the Vancouver kid, in Next Pro. The underlying numbers say he has not been as good at receiving the ball in high value spot. He hasn't been bad by any stretch, but he has not been as polished at finding those like goals happen here spots. If I am Pascal Janssen, and I know Reed failed to put away 2 breakaways, if I'm Pascal Janssen, I am looking at what this team has done in the first 2 weeks, and I'm saying it's worth it to just play this kid here. And it's worth it to get him the reps because he does have the tools. He needs the polish. Suffer through it now for the payoff to come later.
A few things. So one, if this group was the way they are right now, does that mean you take Ojeda off the field? Like
Yeah.
that's the guy you, okay.
Yeah.
I think that's fine. And then you have the other guys playing out
Hannes
wide,
Wolf and Mercado, and then Maxi underneath. Yeah.
which I think is fine. And I think if it's not a negative at that center forward position and you're getting those guys into their best spots, then there's the part where it could be worth it for me, even if Reed isn't putting away the chances in there. What's fascinating me with NYCFC is like, this is kind of a club that, similar to Seattle, has low-key like developed college players and MLS Next Pro guys. And like MD Meyer scored 1 million goals with the Next Pro team. They've had a few guys who have done it, and none of them have gotten a look with the first team, where the Kevin O'Tooles of the world and the Malachi Joneses of the world have gotten thrown into like high leverage situations immediately. It is just this weird position that they won't take this risk on with these guys they develop.
Right.
Like, I'm not telling them these guys are good. They're telling me they're good, but then giving them no opportunity. And I just find it very bizarre that it's like this one black. I mean, it's the hardest position to fill. And they did so with Alonso Martinez. But yeah, it's interesting. But I will say I wasn't sure on Gustavo from last year. I thought he kind of was like Bambi on ice, got pulled into open space and struggled. And I was worried in a back two, because that was like my whole issue. And I think he's looked okay, and the back four has looked okay to start this year, which is promising. Let's start San Diego, St. Louis. So I thought this game was really fun. San Diego are fun. I think St. Louis are up for it. Like, the question we have, let's start with Anders Dreyer, because Anders Dreyer. Let's give him the respect. I literally wrote it wrong. I wrote it wrong this time.
No, blame
That's
it on
amazing.
Ando. That's autocorrect. That's autocorrect.
Yeah. Second fastest in MLS history to 20 goals and 20 assists behind who else? Messi. He scored 3 minutes in. He almost had the exact same goal 6 minutes later. They came out rampant. They did the same in the second half. And St. Louis, I thought, settled otherwise besides that. But he has been everything they thought Chucky Lozano was going to be. And, like, if he's not, I don't know where this team is. And it's a huge credit to him. He signs the contract extension. Like, this is the face of this franchise for the next 4 or 5 years, which is massive for this club.
Yeah, he's everything that you want from a DP. He's clearly a best 11 caliber player. Would have been MVP if it wasn't for the age of Messi, like the era of Messi. He would have been an MVP last year. His ability to finish those plays off, but then his unselfishness to make plays for the guys around him. You can't heap enough praise on him, and it all comes back to Mikey Varas and Tyler Heaps setting the culture for the whole team. The way every player on the team plays for everyone else. The way they trust young players like Kieran Sargent, who they got for a bag of balls from Houston, or guys who they took in the draft, like was it Eisner this year and Pilcher the year before that. Going out and getting Pedro Soma, who looks a lot better so far this year than I thought he did when he arrived middle of season last year.
He is going to be like in the conversation for all the young player list stuff by the end of this year.
I hope so.
Yeah,
I hope
he's
so.
clearly on that track.
Yeah. And then, well, he's not going to be in the conversation for that because there's only one guy in the conversation for that, and it's Manu Dua.
Yeah.
Like Manu Dua is by far the best young player in this league. And the only question with him is, will they sell him for $12 million this summer, or will they hold on to him through the end of the season? I hope they hold on to him, but I would totally understand if they sell him, because they're going to get an obscene offer at some point. And they just have complete confidence that they can replace guys like that.
Yeah.
Because why wouldn't you
Right.
at this point? And just like, I think I tweeted out the Dreyer goal, which is it's an insane goal. You have to go watch it. Like the passes to get out into transition instantly are beautiful, and then the finish is outrageous. And I think I said, like, San Diego has been a gift to this league, and I really mean that, because the way they play is one of a kind. And I feel about them the way I felt about, those first couple of years of Wilfred Nancy, with the way he changed the meta for how you win in MLS. And if anything, San Diego are taking it to an even further extent.
Which is funny, because two of the teams that I think a lot of people don't expect much of, that I was kind of high on their performance from this weekend, were SKC and St. Louis. And I think it's literally just, if you go in and you try with these teams, I'm like convinced, like, oh yeah, you're there, you're right there. Like the game's open, it's fun, and you're playing with them. And I thought St. Louis was okay throughout a lot of this. So the question we had on Blue Sky from Pat Houlihan was, can we have a discussion on how St. Louis can figure out the striker situation ASAP? Because Betcher's continued lack of finishing off positive XG chances, along with lack of depth already with Toitland going out injured. Miggy Perez not the answer for Lovin as the number 8 in the 3-4-2-1. So they had a lot of misses for this game. So Cordova's not there yet. Lovin was unavailable. Hartl was unavailable, and then both of the fall boys, whatever we're calling them, the fall pairing,
the fall guys,
have been unavailable the whole season so far. So it's not.
Yeah, though Mamadou Fall was on the bench, so I think he'll be back.
Okay.
Look, you're playing shorthanded on the road against San Diego. I thought St. Louis played really well. You can see the ideas already. They're really good. The talent isn't there yet. I love Betcher because of his energy, but he's probably a super sub. Right, he's probably not going to be a guy who's clinical enough. I'm not sure that Sergio Cordova is going to be the answer, but he's only here half a season anyway. But it's going to take. Look, the roster didn't get like this overnight, right? It's going to take more than one window to unwind what the previous regime did, and if I was a St. Louis fan, I would be really encouraged by what I've seen through 2 weeks, though. Obviously, you learned a little bit about the gap between this team and what it's like at the top of the table.
Yeah, everything I've heard from St. Louis is that the front office was so bare in terms of resources of scouting, analytics, all of that they're not going to take the risk of the DP multi-million-dollar guy that the team's built around without having that research built in. I think that's where a quarter of a move is like, okay, this guy's played in this league before. It's on loan. It's kind of cost-free. If he's better than we expected, great. If he's not, then it is what it is. It's filling the spot and hoping you get something for it. And I think they've taken some risks on some sort of lower-end guys. The Polvara, whether it's going to work out at center back or not, I'm not sure. Jazzy Larasco. Yeah, but like guys like this where it's like there is talent there. They haven't gotten their shot or their spot. Can we use these few months while DeMay gets his system in place to maybe see if a few of them are worthwhile and a few of them can stick and be a part of this group? So that's, I think, the gamble for them. But yeah, this was an awesome way to end the night with this one. And it feels like we have a pretty good setup of like, if you get San Diego as the late window, you're going to finish on a high. You watch some good games and then you watch this one in week 2. No CONCACAF play this week, so no midweek stuff. We've got huge NWSL season preview that we will be starting with Lori Lindsay and Jill Lloyden. That will be coming out tomorrow with our first slate of teams. And then we'll have more MLS talk on Thursday. We're going to try and stick to some bigger picture conversations. Was really glad to have Valère and Jamie with us last week. So that's going to be that. Obviously, go subscribe to Doyle's newsletter. There's no call to action for Wiebe because he works for corporations. So we can just leave him where he is and let him do what he does. Always appreciate anyone watching live in the chat. Always a fun ad. Thank you to everyone on Blue Sky who sent us stuff. Thank you to everyone in the Discord as well who was hanging out with us over the weekend. Week 2 in the books. Still a lot to learn. So we are going to continue watching. We'll be back every Monday with this big show to give you the headlines, everything